Hey guys, if you enjoy the content I've been putting up, make sure you give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you always know when a new video pops up. Now that we got that part out of the way, let's get into the video. Final Fantasy XIV is a massive game with thousands of hours of content. What I'm going to do here is break down some of the major plot points for those of you who want to know more about Eorzea, but may not have time to experience it all firsthand. This time we're covering the story of Eden's Verse. These events pick up a little while after the events of Eden's Gate, so if you haven't seen that, click the link in the description, watch it, then come back here so you won't be lost. Ifrit, one of the members of Reen's team on the Eden project, has been looking for you because the girl you brought back from the empty finally woke up. Reen and Eorzea show up, already having heard the news from Thancred, and both are eager to find out more about the mysterious girl who tried to kill you. Her name's Gaia, and she claimed to be from Eorzea, but that's all she seems to remember. So Thancred took her home to see if anyone there recognizes her. They should have been back already though, so something must have happened. Or something did, but it wasn't what you'd think. Thancred wasn't delayed by a Sin Eater attack or anything else that makes sense. Nope. He's just been struggling to carry all of Gaia's luggage from home. Her neighbors barely knew her, and other than seeing her house, they didn't learn anything on the trip. She didn't even remember much about her own life in the city. However, she thinks she'll get her memory back if she hangs around you guys, so she invited herself along and made Thancred carry all of her stuff. I personally would have tossed her luggage into the land of the pixies because of how rude the girl is and let her spend the next decade trapped in one of their games, but Thancred's a bit nicer than I am. Since the conversation is dragging on, you all find a spot to sit down at Gaia's rude request, and Reen starts questioning her about her amnesia. The fact that her memory loss is so random makes it seem suspicious, but Thancred trusts her for some reason. Since he wants her to trust you all as well, he let her know about what you were doing in the empty with Eden. However, he still wants you to be on guard just in case you need to introduce her to your weapons. Gaia doesn't remember the fight, but she does recognize your face. Still, she feels like all of this was destined to happen based off of what the voice inside of her head, something she calls the fairy, told her. That's not crazy at all. Nope. It's perfectly normal to name your imaginary friends. She says it even lets her use its powers, and that's where her magic comes from. Considering how this power let her summon Void Scent from the 13th Shard, I'm getting serious Aria vibes from the Red Mage story, but on a far grander scale. I say that because summoning Void Scent on the Source, the main world where you come from, is difficult. It is far more difficult to do it on the first. Eorzea tries to explain this to Gaia in his usual way, and she has no idea what his unique speech patterns means, and trying to figure them out is giving her a headache. Reen understands the whole having a voice inside of her head since she lived with Minfilia in her mind for most of her life. She thinks Gaia may be dealing with something similar, and Eorzea agrees, telling her his theory about Gaia being the Oracle of Darkness. Thancred thinks she shows some symptoms of Ascian possession, something he has personal experience with, but the difference between what Thancred experienced and what Gaia is going through is the fact that she never lost control of her body, and she still has some memories even after hearing the voices, so it has to be something else, because if an Ascian had taken her body, she would have no control at all. So it's probably something closer to the way that Reen was partially possessed by Minfilia. Eorzea even thinks that Gaia's goth appearance may come from the possession, the same way Reen used to look more like Minfilia. Gaia shatters that theory because not only was she born with her dark hair, her parents both had the same, or she thinks, but she hasn't seen them in a long time. They had been taken for ascension by Valkyrie, which means they were turned into Sin Eaters. Changing the subject, she wants to know how Reen ended up going from being locked up in Eorzea to hanging out with the Warrior of Darkness. It is a story that Reen is very eager to tell. Bits of it Gaia remembers because she was in Eorzea when Valkyrie made the people attack you, although she was unaffected by his control, something Thancred attributes to the fairy that Gaia spoke of. The creature may be the reason why Gaia appeared and attacked you when Eden lifted off. Since she doubts she'll learn more from talking to you, Gaia hops up and decides to head back to Eden. Since the fairy wanted it, going there may let her learn what's been living in her head for all of those years. So she leaves, forcing you to track her down. It's not hard to follow the footprints of someone wearing heels through the desert, and you spot her getting attacked by a monster. She casts a wicked-looking spell at it, and makes it blow up from the inside. Ever since she was little, the fairy had whispered to her, telling her what to do and letting her use its powers. But even now, she still doesn't understand it, and sometimes things happen without her doing it, like weird armor and weapons appearing or portals opening to let monsters out. The power feels more like someone is channeling it through her and not being used by her at all. But she's never really tried to control it either, since she doesn't make a habit of fighting monsters. But she better get used to it if she plans on traveling with you all to Eden, although Thancred doesn't think it's a good idea, especially if it makes her lose control and decide to attack you. Eorzea agrees with him that they should keep Gaia isolated and under guard while you continue your work. It's not like your mission to use Eden to restore the First is easy anyway, and adding another potential problem to the equation isn't all that smart. Reen counters, claiming that it wasn't that long ago that she was isolated and held against her will for what people claimed was the greater good, and if that's what Thancred thinks they should do, then he's no better than Valtteri. That is an insult on so many levels for those of you who haven't seen the former leader of Eorzea in the main story. Just trust me when I tell you that there's no worse insult than comparing someone to that guy. Gaia needs help, and Reen wants to help her just like you all did for her, even if it does put the mission at risk. Knowing that she feels so strongly about this, both Thancred and Eorzea agree to taking Gaia to Eden and helping deal with any trouble Reen's decision causes later. Gaia, somehow thinking she's in charge, tells you to hurry up with the emotional stuff and get a move on, or she'll leave you behind, even though she needs your vehicle to get there. Back at Eden, Gaia doesn't attack you, so that's a good sign at least, but it could be because she's so lost in thought. Reen tries to talk to her, but her positive attitude doesn't do anything but make Gaia angry. Every second that passes makes her feel like the voice in her head is taking over her, and she doesn't even know if Gaia is her real name. When Thancred had asked her, she couldn't remember, but the fairy told her that it was Gaia. She couldn't ask anyone in Eorzea because everyone who knew her was either turned into a Sin Eater or disappeared. Reen tries to relate, since she never knew her own real name either. She was either called the Oracle of Light or Menphilia until Thancred named her Reen, but Gaia changes the subject. The fairy hasn't reacted to her being near Eden, so maybe it would do something if you fly the thing around a bit. You still got elements to reawaken, so you all make your way back into the giant Sin Eater. Even though you have made some changes to the elements with the Sin Eater's power, the changes haven't spread. Activating the right third element might be able to jumpstart the others. Lightning is that element, which means you're gonna go up against Ramuh. Reen's excited to see him and his legendary beard since Thancred's told her all about it. Now if you remember how this works, you have to fly to an area ripe with the element that you want to awaken. Eorzea suggests the Gandalf Thunder Plains, since before the flood they had been covered in a never-ending lightning storm, and the lightning ether is still very strong there. Now I'm sure you remember that your memories were used to mold the ether into a primal, and just like before, you royally mess up summoning Ramuh, giving him a nice shave and a ripped half Ixion body. So basically he looks absolutely nothing like you remember, solidifying my claims that the Warrior of Light has brain damage from all the times he's been knocked around. After overcoming the Lord of Lightning, you all head back to your camp. Although there are no visible changes to the area, Thancred can feel changes in the air. It feels like a storm is on the horizon. Gaia's not impressed by Eden's abilities, and apparently neither is her fairy because it still hasn't showed up. Making the air human isn't really a big step toward restoring the world to how it was before the flood, and Eorzea believes that a more active element is needed to jumpstart the process of making it rain. There is a problem, however. You need wind ether to form the clouds, and fire ether to evaporate the water. Individually, neither will be much use, but being balanced alongside the elements you've already restored should cause it to rain. So Gaia proposes that you draw out both elements together. Now I want you to let that sink in for a moment. Drawing out an element summons a primal, and the only way to restore the ether to the land is to defeat the primal. Doing this will cause you to have to fight two primals at once. And not just any two, the gods of fire and wind. Your friends, who you've gone out of your way to save countless times, who you've laughed and cried with, eaten dinner with, and never done anything but help them, wants you to fight both Garuda and Ifrit at the same time. And that's where we're going to stop for today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part of the story.